So the MacBook Neo really is something special, and I'm really enjoying it. Had this thing for about a month now, and I love this thing. I got the 512 with the Touch ID. This thing works great, and it's really fast. And we're going to talk about this thing. I compared it to the iPad Pro M5 on my last video, which is still really a great product. And a lot of you want to know, how has it really stood up against this thing? Is it really a productive tool, or is it just something to organize and consume content with? Well, we're going to talk about that and more. Let's go. So I've had this thing about a month, and it's still just as sleek and good to feel as the day I got it. You got that one finger open the hood up, this thing. You got the Touch ID. This thing opens up fast. It's very responsive. And I use this thing daily. And just letting the cat out of the bag right here at the beginning, this I use a whole lot more than the iPad Pro now. And here's some of the reasons why. When you pick these two things up, they are about the same weight, believe it or not, with the Magic Keyboard and this thing, all in one. There's not a whole lot of difference in weight. And as far as performance, yeah, the iPad is great and it's fast, and it's an M5 in the Pro. So if you really want to do some big time gaming on it, this would be the thing to use. But I don't do gaming, but I do a lot of editing on it. And I use DaVinci Resolve, and I can actually use DaVinci Resolve right here on the iPad because it has an app for it. You just press DaVinci Resolve and you've got it right on your iPad. But can you use DaVinci Resolve on the MacBook Neo? Guess what? You sure can. Right here, got it right on the MacBook. Of course, it's the full program. It's not an app. And there's quite a bit of difference between those two. Now, if you've ever used DaVinci Resolve before, as a content creator, it's a really great program. A lot of shortcuts. It's fast. It's improved so much in the last year or so that I've dropped Premiere Pro for DaVinci Resolve because I really like the way it works. But I'm going to be straight up with you. If you use DaVinci Resolve on the MacBook Neo, it is going to be a slow process. Actually editing the video and going through that, it's not so bad. But when you go to export it, oh my goodness, it takes a long time to export. And what I mean by a long time, you could take a 15-minute video, and this thing could take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours to export it. Where on this, it might take 20 minutes. But me, I actually do most of my editing right here on the MacBook Neo. And when I go to export it, it'll export a 15-minute video in about 10 minutes. And if you want to know the secret, hang on and I'll tell you how I do that. Now, since I got the MacBook Neo and learned the secret, I rarely pick up iPad Pro anymore. There's DaVinci Resolve opened up, but in order to really use it, you got to take something like this external hard drive and you got to put it on the back here, which is kind of nice to do. That's what that ring's there, and plug it in because there is limited storage. There's 512. So you can put all the data on there and actually edit it right here, but it's still an iPad, see? And there you go. And now everything's popping up because I did plug it in. But because it is still iPad software, it's still a little difficult to deal with. Even if you take a Magic Mouse and connect your Magic Mouse to it, it still performs a whole lot different than what you get on a MacBook. So those of you that have a MacBook Pro, or like me, I have a Studio, I really like editing on that because it's very snappy and fast. So what I have learned to do is I will edit right here, and I use this program called Jump Desktop. And there's other programs that you could use just like it, but I take this thing and I jump right in to my MacBook Studio. And in doing so, just sign in real quick. It looks exactly the same. Now I'm operating my MacBook Studio here. And if I go down and I open up DaVinci Resolve, it's a much faster response and it opens up immediately. Nothing slows down. This thing is so fast. It's crazy because I'm not actually working on the device. It's more of a terminal to my MacBook Studio, which is awesome. I've been camping in the RV and edit it, and it's so fast. I've been visiting family, and I've been editing videos from my machine at home with this thing, and it feels just like I'm sitting at home on my studio. I mean, yeah, it's a smaller screen, but when you compare these two screens, which one is smaller now? I mean, I use this as my travel buddy for all the editing. And what's really nice about the iPad, of course, it has cellular built in. You just can't beat that other than tethering your tablet to your phone, which is something I've done and will continue to do because it's fast. Because basically when you're working right off of this and on your computer, it's just as if you are streaming the video here. You know, I can stream through this thing just as fast as if it was local. It's just crazy how fast it is. And of course, you get the audio remotely right through it with this app. So you can turn it up a little bit. It's not a lot larger. And as far as width goes, it almost appears. So all the keys, everything responds just as if I'm working on my MacBook Studio. So when I said I work on this and it will actually render a video faster than my M4 MacBook Pro, that's because I am cheating and I'm doing it on the Studio. So now you're thinking, okay, well, you can do the same thing on the MacBook Pro. Yes, you can, but it's a smaller screen unless you get the larger MacBook Pro. But even still, the larger MacBook Pro is not any larger than this 13-inch screen. And this thing was only $599. Now, I did get the touchscreen and the upgraded storage because I got a military discount, but you can also get an educational discount or whatever. So I haven't found any downsides in using this thing remotely and doing all my work on my Studio. On this, it was still quite a bit different because it was a smaller screen. The aspect ratio is different and everything else comes out just really small and tiny. But if I actually do all the work right here on the iPad, I can do it and it's pretty decent speed. But again, even with a mouse, there are some functions that you just don't get when you have it on the full desktop version, especially when you get into effects and things. It's just not the same. So yeah, I'm a power user, and that's how I power use my MacBook Neo. Now, at the same time, you can use this thing for browsing the web, managing accounts, and doing all that stuff, doing your homework if you're a student. And then, of course, you have the Apple ecosystem with this thing. I mean, it's incredible. And it syncs up real easy to my MacBook Studio. And what's really interesting is I found out that you can actually sync this up wireless to my MacBook Studio and use the monitors. Now, why would I want to do that and be in the same room? You know, why wouldn't I just go ahead and use the MacBook Studio? That's why I don't do that. But if you had things on here you wanted to do on a bigger screen, you can actually do that remotely. So after using this a month, there are a lot of upsides that I just talked about. You know, the storage being 512s, not so much, but since I do everything remotely on my Studio, I have external drives connected to it, and I'm able to do all my editing without adding any space on this thing whatsoever. So since day one, this thing has not slowed down on me. The storage is not anywhere near full. It's only got 8 gigs of RAM. So let's talk a little bit about some of the downsides that I've discovered in the last month. Because of its 8 gigs of RAM, you are limited on how much you open up. But I'm not one of those that opens up 20 browser tabs and 20 different apps at the same time. I'm just using a smaller set, you know, under 10, and this thing has no problem with it whatsoever. So some of the downsides I have found in it, and this is a little bit frustrating, and I'm sure they're going to fix it on the next version, is the keys. They are not lit. So when I'm in my living room working on this thing, because I will leave my studio where I'm doing editing just to go in there and be with my wife and pretend I'm watching TV while I'm working, you know, right off of the MacBook. But it's a problem when I need to reach for some keys in the dark and they don't glow. But fortunately for me, I know where most of the keys are, so it's not that big of a deal. And most of the work when you're editing, you're using a mouse. Or at least I'm using a mouse. I tried using the pen with the iPad Pro and editing. It's just not the same. Some people think that they can do it and they can save time doing it. I'm not one of those. Now, the only other limitation on this one is the screen. It's a 1080p screen, but it is so good and it is so bright. I'm finding myself having to turn it down when I am working in the media room with watching stuff with my wife because it is too bright. But you don't have that 4K resolution. You have to just kind of trust your material if that's what you do, because all my videos are 4K and I run it on the 4K monitor here at my studio. So I don't have any issues with that. Now, I've never felt this thing heat up, and that's simply because it has the cell phone chip in it. So this thing is quiet. It's never heated up. That's never been an issue. And I know I was going into the cons and I'm just turning them right into pros, but there are other cons, and that is the ports. Number one, they're too close for one thing. And because if I need to put something in here, which I do occasionally, and I use a USB-A adapter, then the other port kind of gets covered, and you can't use it. I don't like that, the one port is slower than the other. Why didn't they just put 2 high-speed ports in there? 3.2, it's not that much more costly. Now this thing charges at 35 watts, which isn't too bad. It comes with, I guess, a much slower charger. Their standard, I think, is a 15 maybe. I haven't even looked at it close enough because I've never used it. I've got so many high-speed chargers and ports around here that I just charge this with that. And it's pretty fast. I don't have any problem with that. And it does last me most of the day. If I'm editing hard, it'll last me about 5 to 6 hours. If I'm just browsing and watching content and doing things, it'll last me all day, well over 10 hours, and probably get up to the 15 that is reported to be able to do. But because I'm a power user, I do a lot more than that. Now, a lot of people have reported or complained about the ports. Yeah, you only have one. So if you want to daisy chain stuff on it, that's really difficult unless you get a dongle that's got a bunch of ports on it. But for me, if I do anything, I'll plug in a hard drive to it. And this thing's a terabyte. And what's really cool is this plugs into the MacBook and it has a pass-through charging port right there. And I've tested it. It'll charge at 30 watts, 35 watts going through here. And this is a U green and it has a SSD M.2 1 terabyte Samsung chip in there. And you can upgrade it and it'll take up to an 8 gigabyte chip. They're not sponsoring the channel. It's just something I wanted to share because I really enjoy using this, especially when I travel. So now my final thoughts after a month. This is a great buy for the price. Now, if you're not in a rush to get one, you might want to wait for next year's because next year's they're saying they're going to put the A19 in it. It's also going to have a slightly larger battery, probably both powered ports that are going to be faster speed, and they may light up the keyboard. And to me, that's really all I would need. That would be great. So now it's time to hear from you. Have you gotten yourself a Mac Neo? What's your experience? I mean, they're selling a whole lot more than they expected because they're having to wait on them if you order them now. Apparently because they use what's called bin chips they weren't able to use in the actual phone. So they actually were able to take those and put those inside the MacBook Neo. And because of the demand, they don't have enough bin chips to continue making them. So now that's probably why, apparently what they're saying is they're going to move in early to the upgraded model and start using the A19 bin chips. If you haven't got one yet, is it appealing to you? Are you going to wait for next year's model? If you want to see my full video of the MacBook Neo against the iPad M5 Pro, check out this video here. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And if there's some other things you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. Until next time, have a wonderful day and God bless.